The training room sat in silence. Dark. Heavy. In the corner, a German shepherd stood motionless. Black coat, yellow eyes, muscles coiled like loaded springs. They called him Max. 5 trainers stepped forward with batons and protective gear. Helmets, vests, reinforced gloves. They moved slowly, carefully. Max didn't move. He watched, ears pinned back, lips pulled away from white teeth. Then he exploded. The first trainer went down hard, blood on the floor. The second scrambled back. Max moved like lightning, fast, brutal, unstoppable. They called him the most aggressive police dog in history. No one could touch him. In 2 weeks, they would put him down, unless someone could do the impossible. That someone turned out to be a 7-year-old girl with just a sketchbook and a broken heart. What nobody knew was that this little girl and this broken dog were connected by something neither of them remembered. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe. Drop your country in the comments. I love seeing where our stories reach. The Denver Police K-9 Training Center sat on the edge of the city, a concrete facility surrounded by chain-link fences. Inside, dogs barked and commands echoed. This was where animals became weapons. Max had been the most expensive project in the center's history, imported from Germany at $50,000. Perfect bloodline, perfect build, perfect genetics. On paper, he was everything they needed, but in reality, he was a nightmare. The facility director stood in the observation room. Through reinforced glass, he watched Max pace his isolation cell. Lieutenant Colonel Stevens had been training K-9 units for 15 years and had worked with aggressive dogs before, problem dogs, dogs that bit too hard or wouldn't release on command. But Max was different. Stevens turned to the medical chart in his hands. 5 trainers injured in the past 3 months, 2 hospitalized. 1 required surgery to repair damage to his forearm. The costs were piling up, and the liability was becoming unbearable. He picked up the phone and made the call. The board gave him 14 days, 2 weeks to show progress, or the program would be terminated. Max would be euthanized. Stevens hung up and looked back through the glass. Max sat perfectly still now, his coat gleaming black under the fluorescent lights. 90 pounds of pure muscle, but his eyes held nothing but rage. Max never ate when anyone watched. The staff learned to leave his food and disappear, and he would wait for an empty hallway, then eat quickly, mechanically, and retreat. He never slept. The overnight security footage showed him lying awake hour after hour, his eyes open, watching the door, waiting for the next person who would try to hurt him. Every time someone entered his space, Max stood, his body went rigid, and a low growl rumbled from his throat. It wasn't a warning, it was a promise. The other dogs in the facility could hear him, and when Max made that sound, they went quiet. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Rottweilers, every single one of them backed away from their kennel doors when Max was nearby. Dr. Parker, the facility veterinarian, reviewed his file daily. Physically, Max was flawless. His joints were healthy, his teeth were perfect. And his heart rate and blood work showed no abnormalities. There was nothing wrong with his body. But something inside him was broken. She had tried everything. Behavioral modification, medication, different handlers, different environments. Nothing worked. Max didn't trust, didn't bond. He only attacked. Stevens called a meeting with the senior staff, and they gathered in the conference room. Charts and reports covered the table. The head of training spoke first. His name was Martinez, and he had a bandage on his left hand from last week. Max had lunged through the feeding slot and caught 2 fingers before Martinez could pull back. "He's not trainable," Martinez said. "I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've never seen anything like him. He doesn't respond to rewards or corrections. He only knows violence." Dr. Parker disagreed. "There's something deeper here. This isn't aggression for the sake of aggression. He's protecting himself. From what, I don't know. But there's fear under all that rage. Stevens looked at the clock on the wall. 14 days. 336 hours. It wasn't enough time to fix a dog this damaged. But he had to try. The facility had one option left. A trainer who specialized in impossible cases. A man who understood trauma because he carried his own. His name was Carter. Former military, former handler. He had saved dogs that everyone else gave up on. Stevens made the call. The clock was ticking. But there was something nobody saw. Late at night, when the lights went out and the facility fell silent, Max would lower his head, his ears would fold back, and he would make a sound that didn't belong to a monster. A soft whimper. Broken. Lost. Like he was remembering something he'd lost. Carter arrived at the facility the next morning, 32 years old, tall and lean. He walked with a slight limp from an IED explosion in Afghanistan. Stevens met him at the entrance, and they shook hands. Carter's grip was firm, but his eyes were distant. "Thank you for coming," Stevens said. "I know you don't take many cases anymore." Carter nodded. Everyone in the K9 community knew his story. His dog, a Belgian Malinois named Ranger, had saved his life. Ranger detected the IED before Carter stepped on it, but the blast went off anyway. Carter survived. Ranger didn't. Carter still remembered Ranger's eyes that day, full of trust and love, even as the life drained out. That was 3 years ago, and Carter still carried the guilt. He believed he owed Ranger a debt he could never repay, so he worked with dogs nobody else wanted, the broken ones, the damaged ones. He saw himself in them. Stevens led him to the observation room. Through the glass, Max lay in the corner of his cell, motionless, alert, and unblinking. 5 trainers injured, Stevens said. 2 in the hospital. We've spent over $70,000 on this animal, and the board wants him put down in 13 days. Carter studied Max and didn't see a monster. He saw something familiar, the rigid posture, the constant vigilance, the refusal to let anyone close. Carter had looked like that once when, after Ranger died, he had been angry and defensive. "Can I see the overnight footage?" Carter asked. Stevens pulled it up, and Carter watched in silence. Max lying awake, staring at nothing. Then, near the end, Max lowered his head. His body seemed to shrink, and he made a sound. Soft, pained. The same sound Ranger had made before he died. Carter leaned closer. In that moment, he understood. Max wasn't attacking because he was vicious. He was attacking because he was terrified. Carter turned to Stevens. "I'll take the case, but I do it my way. No one else goes near him." Stevens hesitated, then nodded. Carter didn't know yet that the key to saving Max wouldn't be a soldier like him. Carter spent the first night in the archives because he needed to understand where Max came from. The file was thick: shipping manifests, veterinary records, training logs, and most of it was in German. Carter worked through the documents page by page. Max had been born in Bavaria, a breeding facility known for producing elite working dogs. He had been selected at 8 weeks old for advanced training. His first trainer was a man named Otto Werner, an older handler who was 63 years old. He had been training dogs for 40 years. The photos showed a man with kind eyes and patient hands. In every picture, Max stood beside him, relaxed, alert, trusting. Otto used what he called the partnership method. No pain, no fear, just consistency and respect. He taught Max that humans were safe. That work was something they did together. For 2 years, Max thrived. The training logs documented his progress: scent detection, obedience, controlled aggression on command. Max excelled at everything. He was loyal, eager, the perfect working dog. Then Otto died. Sudden heart attack. He collapsed during a training session. Max had been beside him. According to the incident report, Max stayed with Otto's body for 6 hours. He wouldn't let the paramedics near. Finally, they sedated him. After that, Max was transferred to another facility, a different trainer. His name was Kruger. The training philosophy was different too. Kruger believed dogs were tools, weapons. They needed to be broken first, then rebuilt. The records from those 6 months were sparse, but Carter found the medical reports, lacerations, contusions, evidence of electric shock. Max had been hurt, systematically, repeatedly. Every time he showed affection, he was punished. Every time he tried to trust, he was betrayed. Kruger pushed too far. Max finally fought back. He attacked Kruger during a training session, nearly killed him. The report said it took 4 men to pull Max off. After that, Max was labeled dangerous, unsalvageable. The facility sold him cheap to the Denver K9 program. They thought they could fix him. They were wrong. Carter closed the file. He understood now. Max wasn't born a monster. He had been taught that love leads to pain, that trust leads to betrayal, that the only way to survive was to keep everyone away. But the person who could heal Max wouldn't be someone who understood war. It would be someone who still believed in love. Carter spent 10 days trying to reach Max, moving slowly and deliberately. He would sit outside Max's cell, not trying to touch, not trying to train, just existing in the same space. Max watched him, always watching, and his body stayed tense, ready. But he didn't attack. Carter brought food. Max wouldn't eat until Carter left the building entirely. Progress. Tiny. Barely measurable. But progress. On day 8, Carter spoke, just a few words. Soft, calm. Max's ears twitched. On day 9, Max lay down, still watching, but lying down. On day 10, Carter extended his hand toward the slot, palm up. Max stood immediately. The growl started low in his chest, but he didn't lunge, he didn't snap. Carter pulled his hand back. It was something. Not trust, but not pure violence either. Then the board called. 4 days left. They needed to see real progress, not theories, results. Carter made a decision. On day 11, he entered Max's cell. No protective gear, no weapons, just Carter and Max. Stevens watched from the observation room. His hand was on the phone, ready to call for backup. Max stood, his muscles coiled, his eyes locked on Carter. Carter didn't move, didn't speak. If Max was going to kill him, then it would happen. But Carter wouldn't give up on him. They stood like that for almost a minute. Max took a step forward, then another. He was close enough now that Carter could see the scars on his muzzle. Kruger's work. Then the fire alarm went off. The sound was deafening, piercing. Max's pupils dilated, his body jerked. It was the same sound, the same frequency as the shock collar Kruger used. Max exploded. He hit Carter like a freight train, knocked him to the ground, teeth flashing. The alarm kept screaming. 3 men rushed in with tranquilizer poles. They jabbed Max, once, twice. Eventually, his legs buckled. He collapsed. Carter lay on the floor, bleeding. Not badly, but bleeding. If Max wanted him dead, Carter would be dead. The board made their decision that night. Tomorrow, they would euthanize Max. No more chances, no more time. Carter sat outside Max's cell one last time. Through the glass, Max lay unconscious from the sedatives. Carter whispered, "I'm sorry, boy. I failed you." But what neither of them knew was that tomorrow, a miracle would walk through that door. Carter arrived at dawn. He wanted to be there when they came for Max, to be present, to bear witness. But when he walked through the front gate, he saw something unexpected. Cars in the parking lot, families, children. He had forgotten. Today was Family Day, the annual event where officers brought their kids to see the K9 program. Carter felt sick, They were going to euthanize Max while children played outside. The timing was cruel. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Harper stood near the entrance, a senior officer, respected, decorated. He wore his uniform with quiet authority. Beside him stood a little girl. She was 7 years old with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and blue eyes. She wore a pink shirt with a cartoon dog on the front. In her hands, she carried a sketchbook. Her name was Lily. Daniel kept his hand on her shoulder, protective, gentle. Lily had been quiet for the past year, ever since her mother died. Grace had fought cancer for 18 months. Lily watched her fade. After the funeral, Lily stopped smiling, stopped talking much. Daniel had tried everything: therapy, time, patience, but nothing brought her back. Nothing brought her back. But Lily loved animals, so he brought her here, hoping that maybe the dogs would reach the part of her that grief had locked away. The other children ran toward the demonstration area. They wanted to see the police dogs jump through hoops, show off their training. But Lily wandered. She drifted away from the crowd, curious, quiet. She walked down a hallway, past offices, past storage rooms. Then she stopped. There was a door with a small window, reinforced glass, a red sign that said, "Restricted Area." Lily looked through the window. Inside, she saw a dog, a big black dog, lying in the corner, alone. He wasn't snarling, wasn't pacing. He just looked sad, the way Lily felt inside, empty, abandoned. She pressed her hand against the glass, whispered words only she could hear. "He looks lonely, just like me." Nobody could have predicted what happened next, because while everyone saw a monster, this little girl saw a friend. Daniel found Lily at the restricted door. His heart stopped when he realized what was behind it. He grabbed her shoulder. "Lily, no. That dog is dangerous." But Lily looked up at him with the same blue eyes Grace had, and for the first time in a year, she asked for something. "Daddy, can I see him? Please." Daniel's instinct was to say no, but he saw a spark in her face, the first sign of life since the funeral. Carter appeared in the hallway. He understood immediately. "I can take her in. 5 minutes." Daniel hesitated, every part of him screaming no, but Lily squeezed his hand. He nodded. 5 minutes. Carter unlocked the door. Max stood immediately, his body rigid and his ears pinned back. Carter put his hand on Lily's shoulder. "It's okay." But Lily wasn't afraid. She walked calmly into the room and sat down on the floor, 2 meters from Max. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw. The scratching of pencil on paper was the only sound. Max watched her, his muscles tight, but he didn't attack. He didn't growl. This small human wasn't threatening him. Minutes passed. Then Max sat down, not lying down, but sitting. His tail didn't wag, but his body softened. 5 minutes became 10, then 15. They watched as something impossible happened. Lily finished her drawing and stood slowly. It was a picture of a black dog with yellow eyes. She took 3 steps toward Max. She placed the drawing on the floor, halfway between them, and smiled. "This is for you, so you won't be alone anymore." Then she walked back to the door. Max stared at the drawing, then at Lily. Something in his eyes changed. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. After Lily left, Max approached the paper and sniffed it gently. Then he lay down beside it, placed his head on the drawing, and closed his eyes. For the first time in months, Max slept. Carter ran to find Stevens, who was in his office preparing the euthanasia order. Carter burst through the door. "Stop! Don't sign anything!" "Carter, we've been through this." A 7-year-old girl just walked into his cell. He didn't attack. He sat down. He slept. Stevens put down his pen. "What?" "You need to see this." They walked to the isolation wing together. Through the observation window, they saw Max, still lying beside the drawing. His chest rose and fell in slow breaths. Peaceful. Stevens pulled up the security footage, watched the entire interaction. He played it 3 times. "Call the board," Carter said. "Tell them we need more time. 1 week." Stevens looked at Max, then at Carter. He picked up his phone. The board granted an extension. 7 days. Carter immediately called Daniel, asked if Lily could visit again. Daniel hesitated, but he had seen his daughter smile. How could he say no? Lily came back that afternoon and brought crayons and more paper. She sat in the same spot, drew more pictures. Max watched from his corner, still cautious, but he didn't growl. After an hour, Lily stood, walked closer. Just a few steps. She placed her hand flat on the ground, palm up. An offering. Max's ears moved forward. He stood slowly, took 1 step, then another. He was 3 feet away now. Carter's hand was on his radio, ready. But Max didn't attack. He lowered his head, sniffed toward her hand, learning her scent. He looked at her face. Their eyes met. Lily didn't move. She just waited. Then Max took 1 more step, stretched his neck forward, and touched her hand with his nose. Just for a second. Lily smiled. "Good boy." Max backed away immediately, but his tail moved. Just once. A tiny wag. Carter saw it. Daniel saw it. Something inside Max was waking up, and from that moment, something in Max began to heal. Over the next 10 days, Lily visited Max every afternoon. Daniel drove her straight from school, and she would run through the facility doors with her backpack still on, excited, alive. The grief that had consumed her for a year was loosening its grip. Day 1 and day 2 were about building trust. Lily sat on the floor, drew pictures, and sang songs softly. Max stayed in his corner, but his body language changed. His shoulders relaxed, his breathing slowed, and he wasn't defensive anymore. He was listening. On day 3, Lily brought a book, a children's story about a lonely dog who found a home. She read aloud, her voice filling the small room. Max's ears swiveled toward her, and he lay down, not curled tight, stretched out, comfortable. Carter watched every session. He took notes, documented the changes. Max's food intake increased, his sleep improved, and the constant tension in his muscles began to fade. This wasn't training or behavior modification. This was something deeper. This was healing. Day 4 changed everything. Lily arrived with a small rubber ball and rolled it across the floor. Not toward Max, just across the space. Max watched it, his head tilted. An instinct stirred, something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. He stood, walked over, and sniffed the ball before looking at Lily. She smiled. "You can play with it if you want." Max picked up the ball in his mouth, gentle and careful. He carried it back to his corner and lay down with it between his paws. It wasn't play, not yet, but it was engagement. Day 5 through day 7 were about touch. Lily would extend her hand, and Max would approach to sniff. Sometimes he would let her fingers brush his head, just for a moment. Then he would retreat. But each day, he stayed a little longer. On day 8, Lily hugged him. She didn't ask permission. She just wrapped her small arms around his neck and held him. Carter tensed, ready to intervene, but Max didn't move. He stood perfectly still, his eyes closed, and for the first time since Otto died, Max leaned into a human touch. Daniel watched from the observation window as tears ran down his face. His daughter was healing, and so was this broken animal. Day 9 was when Carter joined the training. Lily sat beside him. And together, they worked with Max. Basic commands: sit, stay, come. Max obeyed, not because he was forced or afraid. He obeyed because Lily asked, because he trusted her. Carter realized something profound. Max wasn't broken beyond repair. He had just been waiting for someone who spoke his language, someone who understood loss, someone who knew what it felt like to be alone. On day 10, Lily lay on the floor beside Max and rested her head on his side, using him as a pillow. Max's tail wagged slowly, steadily, and he turned his head to lick her cheek once. Gentle. "I love you, buddy," Lily whispered. Max made a sound. Not a growl, but a soft whine. Affectionate. Content. Daniel entered the room for the first time. He had stayed outside until now, but he needed to see it up close. He sat down beside his daughter and extended his hand toward Max. Max looked at Lily, and she nodded. "It's okay. That's my dad." Max sniffed Daniel's hand, then allowed him to pet his head. Daniel's voice shook. "Thank you, boy, for bringing her back to me." Carter documented everything and presented his findings to the board. Videos, medical reports, behavioral assessments. The evidence was undeniable. Max had transformed. But there was something deeper happening. Lily hadn't just saved Max. Max had saved Lily too. They had found in each other what they both needed. Someone who understood. Someone who wouldn't leave. Stevens called Carter into his office. "The board is impressed. They want to keep Max and reassign him. Maybe search and rescue." Carter shook his head. "No. Max doesn't belong here. He belongs with Lily." Stevens frowned. "That's not protocol. Protocol almost killed him. That little girl gave him a reason to live. Don't take that away." The conversation wasn't over, but Carter had planted the seed. That night, Lily sat with Max in his cell and told him a secret. "You know what, Max? My mommy left too. I was so sad. But then I met you, and I realized something. The people we love don't really leave. They stay here." She tapped her chest. "In our hearts. Maybe your person is here too, and it's okay to love again." Max rested his head on her lap, his eyes closed, and his breathing deep and peaceful. Lily stroked his fur. "You're not alone anymore, and neither am I." But just as everything seemed perfect, something was waiting in the shadows. Something that would test them in a way no one expected. Carter couldn't sleep that night because something was bothering him. He went back to the archives, pulled out Max's file again. Then he found it, a photograph tucked in the back, faded and creased. Otto standing beside Max. But there was someone else. A little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Blonde hair, bright smile. She was hugging Max. Carter turned the photo over, writing on the back. In German. He translated. "Otto and granddaughter Grace with Max. Spring 2000. Carter's hands went numb. Grace. Lily's mother's name was Grace. He called Daniel. 2 in the morning. Daniel answered on the 3rd ring, groggy. "Carter, what's wrong? Where was your wife born?" "What? Why? Please, just answer." "Germany. Bavaria. She moved to the States when she was 16. "Why? Did she have family there? A grandfather?" "Yes. He raised her, a dog trainer. His name was Otto. Otto Werner. Grace loved him. Why are you asking this? Daniel, I need you to come to the facility. Right now." 30 minutes later, Daniel stood in Carter's office. Carter handed him the photograph. Daniel stared. His face went pale. "That's Grace. She must have been 5 years old here. And that's her grandfather. But the dog. That's Max," Carter said quietly. Daniel sat down hard. "Max belonged to Otto? Grace's grandfather?" Carter nodded. Otto was Max's first trainer. When Otto died, Grace was already in America. She didn't know what happened to Max. Daniel's voice broke. So when Lily walked into that room, Max recognized something. The scent, the gentleness. It was familiar. Daniel looked at the photograph. Tears filled his eyes. Grace used to tell Lily stories about her grandfather, about one dog in particular, a big black dog she loved. Carter felt his throat tighten. Lily doesn't remember. She was too young. Grace brought her to Germany once, when Lily was 2. The two men sat in silence. They belonged together from the beginning, Carter said. Max has been waiting for someone who felt like home. What do we do now? We make sure they stay together. Daniel nodded. I'll talk to the board. They weren't strangers after all. They were family, and destiny had brought them back together. 1 week later, everything changed. Lily woke up with a fever, and when Daniel checked her temperature, it was 103 degrees. He gave her medicine. By afternoon, the fever climbed to 104. She was shivering, struggling to breathe. Daniel rushed her to the hospital. The diagnosis came quickly. Severe pneumonia, both lungs infected. She needed admission immediately, at least 5 days, maybe more. Lily lay in the hospital bed, pale, weak, tubes in her arm, an oxygen mask over her face. Daniel sat beside her, but Lily's first words weren't about herself. "Daddy," she whispered, "who's going to visit Max? He'll think I left him." Daniel's heart broke, even sick, even struggling to breathe. She worried about the dog. "I'll take care of it," he promised. That night, Lily used what little energy she had. She drew another picture, a girl and a dog under the sun. At the bottom, she wrote in shaky letters, "I'll come back. Wait for me." She recorded a message on Daniel's phone, her voice weak, raspy. "Max, it's me, Lily. I'm okay. I'll see you soon. Be good. Buddy." Daniel brought both to the facility the next morning. He found Carter, explained what happened. Carter's face went pale. They went to Max's cell together. Max was waiting by the door, his tail wagged, his ears up, excited. But Lily didn't come. Daniel played the recording. Max's ears shot forward. He stood perfectly still, listening. When the message ended, Max looked around, confused. Daniel placed the drawing on the floor. Max approached it, sniffed it, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't her. Day 2, recording, drawing, and Max listened, but his body language changed. His shoulders tensed. Day 3. Max stopped eating. He sat by the door, waiting, staring, refusing to move. Day 4. Max didn't react to the recording anymore. He lay in the corner, turned away. The light in his eyes was fading. Carter tried everything. Nothing worked. Max was shutting down. On the evening of day 4, something terrible happened. A new trainer was working late, testing the alarm system, practice drills. He activated the alert. The sound ripped through the building, high-pitched, piercing, the exact frequency of Kruger's shock collar. Max's mind snapped. He launched himself at the door, over and over. His shoulders slammed into steel. The door bent. Blood appeared on his fur. He wasn't thinking anymore. Pure panic. The door gave way. Max burst into the hallway. 3 staff members tried to contain him. He barreled past them. He wasn't attacking. He was running, trying to escape the sound. Carter saw him, started running. "Max, stop!" But Max didn't stop. He couldn't hear anything except the alarm. He understood only one thing now. Lily was gone. Just like Otto. Just like Grace. Everyone he loved disappeared. And now he was alone again. Then a voice cut through the chaos, small, weak, but clear. "Max!" Everyone froze. Standing at the facility entrance was Lily. She wore a hospital gown under a jacket, her face pale and dark circles under her eyes. An IV bandage wrapped around her arm. But she was here. Daniel was behind her, and he had tried to stop her. She had begged to leave, just for an hour. The doctors said no, but Lily had pulled the IV out herself and insisted she was going. Daniel couldn't say no. Max stopped running when his head turned toward her voice. His eyes locked on her. The alarm was still blaring, but Lily was here, really here. Lily took a step forward. Carter moved to intercept. "Lily, stay back. He's not stable." But Lily didn't listen. She walked toward Max, slow and steady. Her breathing labored. She opened her arms with no fear. The room held its breath. Max stood completely still, his body trembling. He was torn between panic and recognition. The alarm screamed. His instinct said run, but his heart said, stay. Lily kept walking, 10 feet away, then 5, then 3. She stopped and extended her hand. Max's ears moved forward, and his tail lowered. The tension in his shoulders began to release. He took one step toward her, then another. He walked up to Lily, sat down in front of her, and placed his head against her chest. A soft whine escaped his throat. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck as tears streamed down her face. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." Max's body relaxed completely. She was here, and that was all that mattered. Carter signaled for someone to turn off the alarm. The noise cut out, and silence filled the space. Everyone watched in stunned silence. This wasn't training. This was pure connection. Then the moment shattered. In the chaos, equipment had been knocked over. A metal support pole from a training rack. It had been leaning against the wall, unstable. Now it tipped and started to fall, straight toward Lily. Max saw it first. His head snapped up with no hesitation. He pushed Lily hard to the side, and she stumbled and fell. Safe. The pole came down, heavy with a sharp edge. It struck Max across his back, and the impact was brutal. Max yelped, a sound of pure pain, and collapsed. The pole clattered to the floor, while blood spread across his black fur. Lily scrambled to her feet and dropped to her knees beside Max. "No, no, no, please, don't leave me." Daniel and Carter rushed forward. Carter grabbed the radio. "We need Dr. Parker now. Medical emergency." Max lay on his side, breathing shallow and rapid. His eyes found Lily's, and even in pain, even bleeding, he looked at her to make sure she was safe. Lily pressed her hands against his side, trying to stop the bleeding. "You saved me. Please don't leave. Please." Max's tail moved just once, a tiny wag. Max had done what he was trained to do, protect. But this time, it wasn't duty. It was love. Dr. Parker arrived within seconds and assessed Max quickly. "The wound is deep. He needs surgery immediately." They lifted Max onto a stretcher. Lily tried to follow. Daniel held her back. "Sweetheart, you can't. You need to rest." Lily fought him while tears streamed down her face. "I have to be there. He saved me." Carter knelt beside her. "Lily, listen. Max is strong. Dr. Parker is the best. But you need to let her work. You need to rest. So when he wakes up, you're healthy enough to see him." Lily trembled. She looked at Carter, then at her father. Finally, she nodded. "You promise he'll be okay?" Carter's throat tightened. "I promise we'll do everything we can." They took Lily back to the hospital. Daniel stayed with her. She lay in the bed, refused to sleep, just stared at the ceiling, waiting. The surgery took 3 hours. Dr. Parker worked with precision. The wound had damaged muscle tissue, caused significant bleeding, but no vital organs were hit, no permanent damage. Max was lucky. When he woke up, the first thing he did was look around, searching. Carter was there. He placed his hand on Max's head. "She's okay. Lily is safe. You saved her." Max's body relaxed. He closed his eyes, exhausted, but at peace. 3 days later, Lily was released from the hospital. The pneumonia was clearing. She was weak, but recovering. The first place she wanted to go was the facility. Daniel drove her there. Lily practically ran inside, her legs still unsteady, but she didn't care. Carter met her at the door. He smiled. "He's been asking for you." They walked to the recovery room. Max was lying on a padded mat, bandages wrapped around his torso. When he saw Lily, his tail started wagging, hard. Lily rushed to him, dropped to her knees, wrapped her arms around his neck, careful not to hurt him. "You're okay. You're okay." Max licked her face, over and over. Pure joy. Stevens appeared in the doorway. He watched them for a moment, then spoke. "The board met this morning. We've made a decision." Daniel tensed. Carter held his breath. Stevens continued. "Max is being retired from the K9 program, effective immediately." He paused, looked at Daniel. "He's yours, if you'll have him." Lily's head shot up. "Really? He can come home?" Stevens nodded. "He's not a police dog anymore. He's your dog." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, we'll take him." Lily buried her face in Max's fur. "You're coming home. You're really coming home." Max's tail never stopped wagging. 6 months later. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows as Lily sat at the table eating breakfast. She was healthy now, full of energy, and the pneumonia was a distant memory. Her laughter filled the house. Max lay on the floor beside her chair. His back had healed completely, though a scar remained under his fur, a reminder, but he didn't carry pain anymore. Only peace. Every morning, Tsibowath, Max walked Lily to the school bus and waited at the end of the driveway until the bus disappeared. Every afternoon, he was there when the bus came back, tail wagging and eyes bright. At night, Max slept in Lily's room on a bed Daniel had built for him. But most nights, Max ended up on the floor beside Lily's bed, his head near her hand, protecting her even in sleep. Daniel watched them together and marveled at the bond between his daughter and this dog that had almost been destroyed. They had saved each other. Lily had given Max a reason to trust again, and Max had given Lily a reason to smile again. Once a week, Max returned to the K9 facility, not for training, but for something different. Carter had discovered that Max had a gift. His presence calmed other dogs, the ones who came in scared, traumatized, and aggressive. They called him a therapy dog now. He would sit quietly with the damaged animals and show them that healing was possible, that humans could be safe, that love could exist again. "He's helping others the way Lily helped him," Carter told Daniel one afternoon. "He's passing it forward." Lily started telling people she wanted to work with animals when she grew up, not just as a vet. She wanted to rescue them, rehabilitate them, and save the ones everyone else had given up on. Like Max, she would say, everyone deserves a second chance. Daniel knew she would do it. She had her mother's compassionate heart and Max's courage. One autumn afternoon, Lily and Max sat in the backyard while the leaves changed colors, gold, red, and orange. Lily read a book as Max lay beside her, his head on her lap. She stroked his fur slowly and looked down at him. "You know what, Max? Mommy would have loved you, and I think she's happy we found each other." Max looked up at her, his yellow eyes warm and gentle. No longer the cold eyes of a monster, just the grateful eyes of a dog who had finally found home. His tail wagged softly. The sunlight broke through the trees, creating patterns of light and shadow across the grass. A perfect moment, simple and complete. Nobody could touch this aggressive police dog until a little girl changed everything. Not with force or training, but with unconditional love. Once, no one could touch him. Now, a little girl held his whole heart, and in return, he held hers. "Welcome home, Max. Welcome home."